We're going to see if there are any guests in the crowd. Thank you. Nolan is we're going to start on the left side of the room over here. If there's any guests, if you'd stand and introduce yourself, please. Not seeing no guests on that side. Oh, here we go. There's one in.
Are we live? There we are. All right, Natalie Curry with Henley Law. This is probably her third meeting, so please welcome her and talk to her about all the good stuff that we do as a club. Thank you.
Thank you. How about, we've got a full table of guests in the center. Well, we'll get to those in a minute. They're special.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Jacob Bishop. This is his first visit. He's a family friend. He also works for Frostbank, graduated from UTD, and he'll be starting the SMU MBA program in the fall. Correct. But anyway, I've always talked to him about Rotary, and he's working nearby and wants to get involved, and so thought, what better opportunity?
Came to the right place.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
We have a guest over here with Holly.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Ashley Henson. She's our guest here today. She just moved to Dallas from the Washington, D.C. area, and she's in real estate. And we would love to have her part of the club, so give her a warm welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, we hope to see you all again. Like I said, you've come to the right place. We're glad you're here. We're going to start our meeting with Tracy. Is going to come up with the invocation. We'll then stand for the pledge and national anthem. Followed by that, Kyle has this week's Marketplace Advertiser.
It's so good to see everybody here, old and new. Before we start, are there, well, we have one prayer concern, and that's, you might have heard, Richard Sanford had a stroke the other day and had to go into the hospital. He's there at Baylor, but he's doing well. Had a stroke on the left side, so it would affect the right side of his body. Still a little recovering that, but he's obviously going to go into rehab. But he is hopeful and positive that things will all work out well, but your prayers certainly will help that along. And a kind word or a tweet or a text would also be helpful. So please keep Richard in your prayers. Any other prayers, concerns, hopes, joys out there? Ian? I've got 2 joys. Oh, excellent.
First, my wife is pregnant with our first child.
There you go. Congrats.
So any advice or suggestions? The second thing is I'm finishing out my PhD. I finished my dissertation, so I'm waiting to defend that.
Excellent. It's kind of like 2 people giving birth, huh? Isn't that right? PhD? Anyone else?
Crazy.
Mark?
We have a really good family, friends of ours. Our sons went through the first part of scouting together, and they still see each other every once in a while. They're just really good people. Their son is a senior this year, and about 2 weeks ago, someone jumped a median and hit him head on. And so he's been in the hospital in an induced coma. They're bringing him out of the coma now, and he's just having a lot of difficulty with that. So.
Prayers. Indeed. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, let's go to prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us here today. Those that could make it, those that are attending via Zoom or streaming, whichever it is, coming together as friends, as family, as Rotary. We ask you to be mindful, as you always are, of our concerns and joys. And just remind us of the gifts that we do have. The gift of life, the gift of health, the gift of family, friends, country, and Rotary. May we use these gifts, the gift of this food that we're about to receive, with forethought, with thanksgiving, and with purpose, to do your will and help make this world a better place. For this and for all things we pray in your name. Amen.
Stand for the national anthem. Actually, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you'd like to sing the national anthem, we'd love that if you would just put your mask on. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll have a video here.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wonderful. Thank you. You can be seated, please.
Oh, say can you
More? It's always better the second time. And thank you, Ian, for that. That production is so special to us. Just a real quick update. I actually called Richard this morning, and he was real quick to tell me that it was a minor stroke, so that was good news. And he's hoping to go home maybe tomorrow. So he said it definitely affected his handwriting, which wasn't great to start with. But that was good news. So like Tracy said, I'm sure he would appreciate a text or a phone call or however you want to, definitely prayers. Kyle, let's hear about our marketplace advertiser.
Thank you, President Barb. Today, our marketplace advertiser is Scott McLaughlin with Vista Bank. So, at Vista Bank, we've been putting people first since 1912. That's how we've done business since we opened our doors in Rawls, Texas, 108 years ago, and it's why we're still in business today. As we've expanded across the state into North and Central Texas, we've remained true to our West Texas roots with best-in-class service and the work ethic to match. It's no wonder we're named Texas Monthly Best Companies to Work For, Dallas Business Journal's Middle Market 50, and SMU Cox School of Business Dallas 100. With a rich 108-year history of entrepreneurs, banking entrepreneurs, Vista was recognized a top 25 PPP bank, providing loans to over 2,000 small business owners. One of just 13 Texas banks to originally offer the Main Street Lending Program for Texas entrepreneurs, Vista operates more like a startup than a traditional bank, offering innovative solutions to personal and commercial clients alike, while never sacrificing our top priority, putting the people first. Giving back to the communities we serve is at the heart of our mission, which is why we have a long-standing relationship with Rotary in North Texas and across our great state. With values that align seamlessly, partnering with the Rotary Club of Park Cities has allowed Vista Bank to help create change for the better in our community through passion, energy, and intelligence. We would be honored to earn your trust and your business. Please thank Scott McLaughlin with Vista Bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott, and all of our marketplace advertisers. As we bring this Rotary year to a close, you'll be hearing and you'll have the opportunity to start advertising next year. So Mark Kasher will be in touch with you on that. Jeff McNaughton, current Vice President, got a little recap of the district conference that just happened last weekend.
Hey, how y'all today? Great sunny day outside. Sunny in our heads. So on Friday, Barb and I attended the district conference luncheon, and then afterwards we helped stuff a bunch of necessary goodies for the veterans and some needy families, toothbrushes, toothpaste, hair, shampoo, all that kind of stuff. On Saturday, we were there for the conference. Also was attended by past President Richard Sanford and District Governor Rick Amsbury and TRACY GOMES. What's that? I was getting ready to get to that. Thank you. Happy showed up and went to the gala as well. And then some of us went back and helped do stuffing, and Holly was back there stuffing more of the stuff for the VA and the needy families. It was a great cause. They raised, it was like 1,000 items. It was a ton of stuff. Key takeaways, one of the big things that jumped out to me was the Rotary Foundation, which we hear about a lot. I never really hear how big they are. They have given back $4 billion, of which 92% of the money comes back to our districts through district grants. So I was really blown away by that. Additionally, there's an independent group that evaluates private foundations, and we're consistently one of the top 5 that was on their list, which is pretty impressive. Expect change. So, you know, thanks to Mark Neese, I'll never forget, we were at a board meeting, he's like, we should be streaming these meetings. And I'm like, what? No one's going to do that. Now everybody does that. And that is going to be the norm going forward, and that's pretty much what everybody's doing around the world. As a matter of fact, the district conference itself was, some of the speakers were in person and some of them were Zoom in person. So expect that to be norm. This year's international conference is going to be virtual. Next year I'll be going to Houston for the international conference, and they asked that a lot of people from this area go down to support it. And Jeff Sheehan will get to go to Australia the following year, which is exciting. You may remember seeing some emails from Barb talking about the district, the public image campaign that they were going through. There were 6 items that you had to complete. Out of the 61 clubs, 11 clubs completed all of them. We are one of them. And our names got thrown into a hat in a raffle. And Barb won a raffle, $250. And she's graciously going to donate it to our local foundation. They also had these raffle tickets on our tables, and I was the lucky recipient of a $1,000 Paul Harris Fellow Award. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I guess that's it. Quick recap.
Thank you, Jeff. It was wonderful. I guess it goes to show you it pays to show up. Okay. We have, like I said, our center table here, some special guests. And this is a really exciting announcement for our club. We are very excited to be co-sponsors of a Rotaract club. And we are co-sponsoring with Daniel Long, who's here. You'll hear from him in a minute. And then their president and several of their club members are in attendance here today. It's the West Plano North. It's Plano Community Rotaract Club. Thank you, Daniel. That's how new it is. I don't even know the name. So let's start with Ruth. Ruth, she's going to be our team leader on this club.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you the people that we're going to partner with, the members of the North Texas Community Rotaract Club. Now,
Okay, can we straighten this out?
yes, please,
Yes.
Daniel.
It's North Texas
North Texas.
Pioneer Rotary Club.
That's your club.
That's my club, yes.
Okay.
That's the little club that's joining with y'all.
Right.
Okay. This
We're
is
together.
the Plano Community Rotaract Club, the
Okay.
only community Rotaract club in the district. And we're very proud to sponsor with such a large active club here, because we're the little tiny 22-member club that does so much. Continue, please.
Okay, I'd like to first introduce Nicole Miner. She's the current president of the Rotaract Club. We have Zubair Tunami, who's the incoming president. We have Vivi Bennett, who is our district Rotaract chair.
Governor.
Governor. Thank you. What would I do without you?
I don't know, but we'll keep working on this.
Okay. Manuel, please stand up. He's a member of the Rotaract Club. And we will be meeting virtually for a while. And if anybody from our club wants to be part of it or join with them, just let me know. Now,
Forgot
Daniel.
Tracy.
Tracy.
Yes, he is our youth officer this year for the district.
I didn't know we were going into that. Okay.
Well, he's at our table, hon.
All right. Please stand up, Tracy. Let's
Hey, Tracy.
And Daniel is the district youth protection officer.
And I'm going to be working with this young lady, so when she says she needs your background check, please comply with her, because she'll be checking it over, so that way we are protected no matter what we do. We want to protect Rotary International, we want to protect the zone, the district, and each and every one of you members to make sure that everything is done according to oil. And who do we trust? Nobody. Don't trust anybody, because that's the person that is the most vulnerable to be at a problem.
And we're going to ask all of you to get it cleared, get the clearance, so that in the future, when something comes up that involves youth outside of this school district building, then we will be ready.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on, Stan. We're going to take a minute because obviously we all need to learn a little bit more about Rotaract and hear from this year's president. She has a PowerPoint presentation. Clickers. Thank you. Oh, we've got a big step here. I see it. You got it. Okay. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Hello. Good afternoon. Hope you guys are enjoying your lunches. My name is Nicole Miner. I am the current president for the Plano Community Rotaract Club. Yes, Plano is in our name. However, we're more of a North Texas youth Rotaract Rotary Club. We started officially back in 2016, and we've always been pretty small. We started as a group of graduates from the University of Texas at Dallas and SMU, and we decided, you know what, we still want to keep giving back. At that point in time, Rotaract was limited to just the universities, and Daniel Long, who we graciously just met right now from North Texas Pioneers, he actually helped start our club when he was a member of Plano West Rotary Club. So through Daniel's assistance and the kind members over at Plano West Rotary, we were able to start the first community Rotaract Club here in District 5810. And since then, we have grown from 5 members to almost 10. So it's small but mighty. I will say COVID did affect some membership opportunities. However, now that we're moving forward past the pandemic, we do have more members coming up. Manu Mesa over here at our table, he's going to be our newest member. He's going to be inducted on Saturday at our virtual meeting. And we also have 1, possibly 2 more prospective members joining us in the near future. So we're excited for the growth. And partnered with that growth, we're excited to partner with Park Cities as well as with North Texas Pioneers to expand our opportunities to give back to our community. Currently, our club is partnering, let's see, we have 2 sisters clubs, or is the other one pending?
One is in process, the other one is already.
Okay, so we do have 1 official sister club. They're based in Colombia. And we have a second sister club in the process of becoming official. from Monterrey, Mexico. So we are not only local, we're also global, and we like to emphasize the global partnerships that we have amongst Rotary International. Phoebe, I'll let you take the lead on the PowerPoint. It's her. Oh, so that one's got it.
Yeah, so basically, I'm going to be saying some of the general information about Rotaract, and in case you have any questions, you can let me know at the end. So we are very similar to a Rotary Club. We are young people wanting to do service projects, and there's a lot of opportunity to develop our leadership skills. And the age range is usually 18 to 35. Rotary has removed the upper age limit, so there is no like an exact age where members have to leave the Rotary Club. However, individual clubs can determine in their bylaws if they want to have a limit or not, but that's kind of like the age range. And actually in our club, we have our youngest member will be Manu, who is 18, and we have Zubair, who's about to turn 30, so we have like pretty much the whole spectrum of age in our club. Let's see.
If I may add.
Yep.
If I may add, for our particular Rotaract Club, we decided in our bylaws to extend the age to up to 36. So that's what we decided for our club. Because 35, I mean, 36 is still young too, but we're like, Rotary told us to use our best judgment for what constitutes a young adult. We're like, we can extend it, but we're open to, we're flexible, so.
Yeah, so it's very great because actually that gives people an opportunity to transition to Rotary when they're ready, and they're not forced to just have to leave. A lot of members of Rotaract were leaving when it was up to 30. They were not necessarily joining Rotary clubs, they were just leaving Rotary altogether. So that gives members a lot of flexibility, and this is one of the key factors of Rotaract, that our dues are very low, we're very flexible with attendance, and so depending on what I say is always, it's not a matter of age, but mostly like your lifestyle and the stage of life that you're in. There's going to be members that maybe are 30 and they already can afford Rotary Club dues, or they feel like that would be a better fit for them. But then there's also members that might be 35 or 36 and it still doesn't make sense to be in a Rotary Club. So that gives our members a lot of flexibility in that regard. Oh, actually I skipped. As Nicole mentioned, Rotary clubs have two different kinds. So there's the university-based clubs and community-based clubs. And technically, you said at that point there was no community-based, but actually it exists a long time ago. It's just that here in the United States, most people were not familiar with community-based clubs, and they only thought it was reserved for universities or colleges. And that was actually another limiting factor, because people technically don't go to college until they would be over 30 or feeling again like ready to be in a Rotary Club. So we were having like a large gap, and then Rotary International started encouraging more clubs here in the United States to have community-based clubs. Also, so both kinds of clubs are great. However, some work in some cases, and some actually have a lot of trouble or struggle keeping up with the members when they're at a college, and also because people are like leaving all the time, and community-based makes it possible for a community to have people from different colleges or even people that are working. So those two are the main differences, and of course our club is community-based. Our dues, as I mentioned, are very affordable. Technically, as club dues, it's not required to have any dues at all. And this is something that clubs can determine with their bylaws. So we currently determine for our club to have $100 per year. And if you're a student, then it would be $60 per year. And at this point, we still don't have to pay any Rotary dues, but we will start paying dues in 2022. So they actually did a lot of surveys around the world because they wanted to make sure that these dues were affordable in other currencies as well. So for us, it sounds very low, but they actually thought about everyone. And so we will have an annual per capita due for university clubs. It's going to be $5, and for community-based, it's going to be $8. So that's what we will start paying. Another thing that actually, like the reason why they will start having these dues is because recently Rotary started recognizing Rotaract as members of Rotary. So it's still a different kind of membership. We are considered Rotaractors, and Rotary Club members are Rotarians, so it's a separate kind of membership. However, now we are recognized as members, and before it was just a program of Rotary. So it was more kind of like RILA or the Rotary Youth Exchange, and now it's another type of membership. So this is important to know because I know sometimes we hear or see like articles online and it's like, oh, now Rotaractors are members. So I've had a lot of Rotarians think like, oh, they're now Rotarians, and it's like kind of confusing. So it's always good to know the difference. Well, technically our club already, Nicole said, is a very small club, but when clubs start, the recommended number is usually 12 members. However, this is just recommended. There is not like a specific number, and of course we are wanting to grow our club, and one of the advantages we have is that most of our members have been in Rotary for a long time, so when we get new members, we already kind of are familiar with Rotary. Zubair, who is our president-elect, is actually a Rotaractor back in Algeria. And I was a Rotaractor in Colombia. That's where I started. So we all moved to Dallas, and now we have members from all the world. That's actually why we like to do global projects as well.
We're a pretty international club.
Yes. Yeah, so about sponsorship, again, like we are announcing today that we're going to be sponsored by North Texas Pioneer and this club, and we're very grateful for that. Rotaract clubs can have different kinds of sponsorship, so they can be created without a sponsor at all, with at least one Rotary Club sponsor or another Rotaract club. And we can have up to 3, so we're going to have 2, and that's going to be great. I'm really excited for that, so thank you. Well, we are very excited as a club, yes. This is going to be a great opportunity for partnership. And another thing is sometimes I know Rotary clubs sponsor other Rotary clubs when they're starting, but technically that sponsorship is only at the beginning, and then they're kind of going their own ways and independent. But in the case of Rotaract, the sponsorship means more like a partnership. So we're going to be like family. We're always going to be like working on projects together. I'm not sure if you have an Interact club. Do you? We do. Yeah, so do you have an Interact club? So that would be like the whole family, Interact, Rotaract, and Rotary Club. And I think that's it for just the basic information about Rotaract. Again, if you have more questions, let me know, and Nicole can tell you a little bit more about our club.
So real quick before we hand the podium over, we do want to share some current projects that our club is working on. So the first one being, we decided, since we're as we've already alluded to, we're a very multicultural international club, we're going to create a cookbook. Zubair has been kind enough to organize that. So right now we're collecting recipes to put together. We haven't decided where the proceeds are going to go yet, but we decided let's do a physical and a digital copy. So we're partnering with our sister clubs in Colombia and Mexico. We contacted one of the Rotarians out in Kenya, and we have some Rotaractors who visited us from Egypt, Japan, Wales, and they're all contributing recipes to us as well. So we're hoping we can have a good mixed cookbook, and then we can sell and have those proceeds go towards a local charity. The second project we're working on right now is we were asked by an organization called Camp I Hope. For those who are not aware, Camp I Hope is a local organization and camp designed for children with cancer and their siblings to go have a summer camp experience. Just take a break for a week from the constant chemotherapy treatments, medical appointments, all that stuff. Just have a chance to be kids. So they're having an fundraiser and auction, on May 15th out in Rockwall at one of the breweries out there. I will definitely let Barb and Ruth know the address for that for those who are interested in attending. It's very similar to Pints for Polio, but instead it's beers to beat childhood cancer and to relate it to that. But they have asked us, Plano Community Rotaract, to provide one of the grand raffle prize items. So we have asked pioneers and extended the offer as well to you guys here at Park Cities to join us in collaborating to figure out what we can do for a grand raffle prize so the proceeds could go towards Camp I Hope. That's pretty much it for right now. We are still virtual. We do have a meeting coming up this Saturday, May 1st, tomorrow. But other than that, if you guys are wanting to learn more about us, feel free to hit us up. We're more than welcome and happy to talk to you guys about our club.
Well, how about that? Is that exciting or what? I love the energy. I think it's just going to be a great partnership with North Texas Pioneers, and we'll be seeing a lot of them at our events, and hopefully they'll be seeing a lot of us at their events. Well, Stan, you have about a minute. Can you do it?
I can do it. I'm up here to talk to you again about the North Texas Food Bank, that distribution center we're going to do. It's a week from tomorrow, a packing day. How many in here have had their COVID shots? Raise your hand. Wow, so that's everybody that's going to volunteer. That's terrific. That is great, because we've got about 20 now, so we'll that'll fill us up. That's terrific. It's next Saturday. You can invite your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. Your kids can come if they're 14 or above. It's real easy. It's one of the funnest volunteer things that we've got. Barb and I have been talking about this probably for like 4 months now, trying to put this together, and we kept pushing it because of COVID, blah, blah, blah. And finally we thought this was a good time. And the reason we were doing it is because people kept talking to you about, we need some volunteer, something to go do. Well, it doesn't get any better than this. So I hope you'll, see Happy's not here. Happy has been sending out a blast to the membership to volunteer. Real easy to do that. If she'll do that today or tomorrow. And please, hope you volunteer. Yes. Right. You have to, yeah, what Happy's sending out, thank you. What Happy is sending out, it's you have to go on there it's a link to the North Texas Food Bank website that you have to sign up on. So any other questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much, Stan. Well, okay, we have a speaker today, so let's get to it. We are going to have Rob, our chair of the day, introduce her, and then you'll have the podium. There you go, Rob.
Well, thank you, President Barb. I'm just so happy to see so many faces and so many empty plates and glasses fill this room. It's been a big void in my life for way too long, and I just rejoice that you guys are here and healthy. And sending prayers to Richard. It's interesting that Richard had a stroke, because our speaker, Rachael Parry, treats folks with strokes that are having voice problems. And I was referred to improve my voice. I was having a little bit of problems, as my significant other was saying, could you say that again? Could you speak a little louder? Finally, I've been motivated to do that, and she's just one of the best health professionals I've ever met. And of course, because she's from State College, Pennsylvania. What football team is famous for State College? That's right, Michigan State. I'm Michigan State. Excuse me, Penn State. Penn State. All right, Rachael, come on up.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to share with all of y'all a little bit about what I do on a day-to-day basis. It was interesting to me. He said, oh, I think so many people would love to hear about this. And I thought, really? I talk about this all day, every day. So I hope that you do enjoy what I have to present. And please feel free to interject and ask questions, or I have some opportunity for questions at the end as well. But really what I wanted to kind of address was any questions that you may have about your voice or your speech, or probably things that you have wondered about or thought about, or maybe not. Maybe your voice is working totally fine, and it's things that we kind of take for granted until something doesn't work with them. So everything you've ever wanted to know. Do I have a clicker? Yeah. Great. Okay, so where does it all start? Our voice and our speech, it starts with our lungs. the interesting thing about our lungs is it's the only organ in our body that operates subconsciously, but can also be brought into our conscious thought. So our heart, our brain, our liver, it goes and goes and goes, and there's nothing we can do to change it. And our lungs will do the same thing. But if we think about it, we can change the way that we breathe. Whenever we start to produce a voice, what do we do first? We take a big, deep breath, and then we can use our powerful voice. So there's two different types of breathing, and the natural pattern of our breath should be more of a diaphragmatic breath. So this big muscle in our abdomen, it is like a shelf, and it pulls down our lungs and expands them when we want to take a big deep breath. Or alternatively, we can breathe up in our chest, clavicular breathing. So that's what we think of the not a good healthy pattern for breath. And usually if we see people breathing like that, it's labored, it's intense, and they are not comfortable. So we see that usually for people who are in the hospital and kind of working to stay alive. We also see it with different patterns of disordered breathing or neurological impairment. So a diaphragmatic breath is the strongest, healthiest pattern for breathing, but it's also the most natural. So if you think about watching a baby sleep, their big belly rises and falls. If you have a pet, a dog or a cat at home, same thing. You can see their belly expand and fall when they sleep. We do the same thing, we just don't think about it as much. But we can all try it together. So I don't know if you can hear me. I'm just going to step back so you can see me a little bit. But I have a very loud voice. Can y'all hear me okay? Okay. So when we take a diaphragmatic breath, what we're going to do is watch my belly. I'm going to breathe in through my nose, and my breath or my belly falls out. And I breathe out when my belly really flattens. So if y'all try the same thing, it's the same thing that we do all day, every day. But if you breathe in through your nose, big deep breath, that belly will expand, kind of like a balloon. And then when we breathe out, it deflates. But the other thing is, when we speak, we are constantly letting out like a little stream of air. So when we breathe in, and then we talk and talk and talk like I'm doing here, I've depleted all of that air. I don't have to exhale because I just need to replenish my breath again. So you can do that on your own practice. I spend many sessions with a lot of my patients talking about breathing, and it's interesting because when we start to think about it, we realize how automatic it can be. But in a lot of my patients' cases, how difficult and challenging it becomes to breathe in this pattern that they've never thought about but use every day. So that's just kind of further talking about that. What we want is for a steady inhalation and exhalation pattern. So we don't want that same labored breathing that I demonstrated with that chest breath that I talked about before. If we breathe in and then we talk really fast and then we need another breath, it doesn't sound good, people can't understand us, and we're uncomfortable. I'm gasping for air. So the goal is that we have a nice, strong diaphragmatic breath, we fill our lungs, and we're able to project a loud volume, a clear projection of speech, and people can understand and hear us clearly. Again, it's something we don't really think about. I'm going to naturally inhale throughout this presentation, and hopefully you don't notice it, and I don't think about it. It's just going to happen when my lungs are empty. So the goal also here when I'm working with my patients is kind of teaching them that coordination. Breathing in, supporting a really deep, strong voice, and then being aware of those signs that our body tells us that we need to replenish that air. So the lungs, the breath, that's the first piece of it, but what comes next? So our airway starts here in our lungs and flows up through our voice, or through our throat, I'm sorry. In our airway are these two little tiny pieces of tissue and muscle, our vocal cords. You can see a small picture here. This is kind of a bird's eye view. They're really, really small, even compared to this. So if you do look into the airway, what you'll see is basically just motion. And when we really slow it down all the way, you can see these vocal cords kind of vibrating together. What happens when we take a breath is that we push air through the vocal cords, they vibrate and create our voice. So, ah, and we can change it. Ah. That's how we change the length of our vocal cords, the speed that they vibrate together, how much air we push up and through them. So they're a pretty small but mighty part of our body, and they can be easily damaged, unfortunately. So if you think about yelling at a football game for just one day, you can wake up the next day and totally lose your voice. Teachers often are people who chronically overuse their voice, and so those little vocal cords can't really tolerate constant talking and constant yelling and all of those things. So while our vocal cords are extremely powerful, they're also can be easily damaged. So we use our voice in many different capacities all day, every day. We have face-to-face conversations. Now we have a lot of virtual face-to-face conversations. We talk on the phone. We call the doctor's office and make an appointment. We chat with our colleagues. All of that is just different ways of using our voice. And it changes throughout the day. You know, we use a different type of voice when we're talking to our partner than when we're talking to our colleague. We use a different type of voice when we're talking in a big group as compared to talking one-on-one in a confidential conversation. So we change our voice throughout the day. We modify the pitch. We speak quickly or slowly. And sometimes it's really effortful. So not that I'm working too hard, but this is going to be a little bit harder than my voice is working today as compared to other conversations where I'm just one-on-one with a patient or with a colleague or with a family member. And if you're talking in a group, those are the times that you'll notice it the most. So the other things that we don't think about using our voice is when we sing or we cough or we laugh. You're still using your voice. You're still using your lungs and projecting through your vocal cords. So if you think about all of the times you're using your voice throughout the day, we can fatigue it very easily. And we're very tolerant of a lot of exercise for our voice. We may go through the whole day and talk all day and not notice it. But I certainly notice when I've seen patients back to back and I had meetings and I was on Zoom and I get home and I'm like, I just don't want to talk at all. And I'm sure we've all had that feeling before, versus the days where we're on the couch, maybe hanging out, watching TV. Your voice doesn't feel that tired. So we use our voice all day, every day for different capacities. So how do we keep our voice healthy? Important things like we talk about all the time for most bodily health and hygiene is staying hydrated. I know you'll hear this from probably every medical professional that you ever talk to, but for your voice it's especially important. When your vocal cords are not well hydrated, they kind of rub together like sandpaper instead of gliding together in a good vibratory pattern. When we feel dry, our tongue and our lips and our mouth, it's harder to talk. We have to strain a little bit more. So just generally staying hydrated is a really key component to having a strong voice. Staying hydrated is a lot more challenging than we think. 64 ounces of water is recommended, and that's just the baseline. It could be up to 128 for some people. So sometimes we think, oh yeah, I have a glass of water today. That's 8 ounces. That's a fraction of what you should be having. So that's a really important thing to think about. Other things are just using your, yeah, sure. Great question. Water is the best thing to hydrate your voice with. The other thing is to add fruits. So lemon water is really great because they have hydrating properties, or you put berries or things like that. Things to not hydrate your voice with: sodas, alcohol, lots of sugar, lots of alcohol has dehydrating components. So what I always say is in moderation. If you have a beer, have a water. So great question. Teas, coffees, those types of things also, especially like an iced tea, it is hydrating in some capacity, but tea, because it has caffeine, is also a dehydrating agent. So I just say water, 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 and then if you're having those other things, just be cognizant of the dehydrating effects, because if you have a soda, while that quenches our thirst, it can actually be a dehydrating agent. Great question. Any other questions before I move on? I know I talk kind of quickly. Okay. The other kind of components of using a healthy voice is just being cognizant of how we use our voice. If I'm shouting and screaming, I'm more likely to cause damage or harm to my vocal cords. So my example about going to the football game, you could create a blister on your vocal cords with one event, one episode of yelling. So the more we do that over time, the more damage can occur. So just use a comfortable voice. No whispering, no shouting. Those are the things that cause damage. And straining your voice in a really noisy place, even though you don't feel like you're shouting, you're actually kind of working extra time. So any of that strain can be negatively impacted. Like I said, our voice is really strong. So if that happens occasionally or we do it every now and then, that's pretty normal. But those people like the teachers who talk all day, every day are the ones who are more prone to damage. Great question. So we know that, sure, the question is why does whispering have a negative impact on your voice? So with shouting, we can feel that sometimes. We know it's a lot of effort. But when we whisper, what we do is strain our vocal cords and they stay somewhat open. So we're pushing a lot of air out. It's just a different pattern of breathing. So we're straining our vocal cords to whisper, we're straining our vocal cords to shout, and a comfortable volume is the most healthy pattern of breathing. Again, in moderation. If you do it now and then, it's not that big of a deal, but you can feel that it's different with your voice. So a common question that I get, the patients that I work with patients as young as 15 and 18 up to my oldest patient to date has been 102. So my average patient is about 60. So this is a question that we see a lot of times. You know, they might come to me because they've had a stroke and their voice has changed, but they say, I'm 78. Of course my voice has changed, right? Absolutely, yes. Aging can change our voice. So just like every other tissue in our body, our vocal cords aren't as taut or, you know, you can see your skin at age 15 is like beautiful and stretchy, and then by 30 I'm starting to get some wrinkles, and by 70 even more. So the same thing happens in our voice, in our vocal cords. Also, our endurance goes down a little bit. So those athletes who are still 65 and running marathons are probably it's gonna be easier for them to give a presentation because their lungs are still strong. They have the endurance and the capacity to project their voice. But again, it's still not the same as when they were 30. So aging definitely has an impact on voice. It can change the volume that we can achieve. The quality can become breathier or more strained. The pitch sometimes becomes higher or lower. And there's no real normative pattern, but it isn't uncommon to see that change. Yes? Great question. So the question is related specifically to the church group and the choir that hasn't been singing for over a year for other circumstances. And the question is, how do we, what advice would I give to protect the voices? Is that what your question is? Of those who haven't been singing in a while. In general, I would say warming up your voice is a really important thing. So most choirs have experience with that, doing vocal exercises before they start. And I would also say gradually reintroduce. So we build strength in our voice when we talk and when we sing. So the likelihood is that many of the people in the church and the choir have been singing in the car, in the shower, you know, along to the radio. So there's some activity in their voice, but you don't want to have an 8-hour choir practice on day one. You want to slowly, gradually reintegrate so that you're warming up the voice and then you're building tolerance and building strength so you can get back to a service where they're singing for a whole hour in a row, or an event or a performance. Great question. Oh, I went too fast. Is there anything else that can affect my voice? Absolutely. So this is my job altogether. Traumatic injuries to the voice, to the brain, to the body, can have a big impact on the voice. Any other medical complications that require an intubation, so during surgery, If people have an injury, there may be an incision, and a breathing tube right into their larynx could occur, or they could be intubated through the nose or mouth for a breathing tube. And it's a common practice with surgeries, and people often have, young, healthy people who go in for a planned surgery may still be intubated, but they come out, they might have some irritation, and it wears off. If you are intubated for a prolonged period of time, a month, 3 months, even longer than that, there's a lot of irritation, there's a lot of rubbing. I mean, you've had a rubber tube in your throat for a long time where it shouldn't be. So that's a very common issue. I see patients who have had a brain injury, so very unrelated to anything I would work on with them, but in addition, they've been intubated. So they come to me and we're working on cognitive issues, but they also have a change in their speech and voice as a result. And we see that a lot with patients with spinal cord as well, because they're often intubated immediately following an injury. And then neurological impairments as well. So I work a lot with patients with Parkinson's disease, and so we're going to see a neurodegenerative change, meaning atrophy in different areas of the brain or chemical imbalance. It could be stroke, it could be Parkinson's disease. Any neurological change can have a pretty significant effect on your speech and voice as well. So this is my job. Okay. Can I prevent vocal decline? Absolutely. So just doing the things that we talked about before, staying hydrated, making sure that you're practicing, and to your question as well, making sure you're protecting your voice. If you are going to use it a lot, build up to that. Make sure that you're gradually reintroducing any voice demand. So this is me. What is my job? When I see a patient, I'm looking at all the things we talked about. Is their breath support strong? Do we need to do exercises to build strength, either in their breathing or in their voice? Is their speech clear? Is the articulation strong, or are they muffled and strained, and it's hard to understand them? So I'm going to look into what are the reasons. Do they have a neurological impairment? Is it more of a traumatic injury that we're seeing? Kind of figuring out the root cause of the change and then developing a treatment plan from there. My biggest recommendation is that all therapy should be guided by a physician. So if you do have questions or you do have concerns, your doctor is the first person to go to, because they're going to send you to me. So, hey, I was actually pretty close, right on time. Is there anything else? Yes? Great. Great question. So the question was COPD. This is a big challenge because obviously there's changing, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is COPD. So there's a change, a progressive change in the breath support. That's where I would start with achieving a diaphragmatic breathing pattern that may be more labored or effortful than the diaphragmatic breathing that I was mentioning before. That becomes more challenging with COPD, so I would start with that and then work on kind of energy conservation, so resupplying the breath more frequently and allowing patterns of speech to sort of cater to that instead of talking and talking and talking until you can't breathe anymore and then your voice sounds like this. Second question.
I'm slightly deaf, and my grandson mumbles.
Wow, generational issues. I got what, 1 more minute? The question was, if you're hard of hearing and those around you are not really being very helpful, I guess, with their patterns of speech. When you're hard of hearing, I do recommend being face-to-face. So if you can see the face, you can see the eyes and the lips, which has been a big problem with the masks, absolutely, but that's you have great visual feedback to be able to hopefully better understand even if he is mumbling. Sitting nearby, turning off distractions, don't have the TV running and the cell phone playing memes and TikToks and all the things. And trying just to reinforce that you need that volume as well, because obviously he's the one who has to compensate. So you can change your proximity to him and you can be able to see him better, but the goal is that he's sort of changing his behaviors to modify your need. Yeah, good luck with that. Sure. It's a great question. It's actually a microscopic difference in the length and the robustness of the tissues and the muscles in the vocal cord. So he has probably longer vocal cords with a stronger muscle that vibrate together really nicely, whereas the female who has what we call, and I hate this term, but a shrill voice, is very small vocal cords and they vibrate together very quickly. It creates a very high frequency, and then they don't have that robustness for a good quality voice. So unfortunately, it's not much we can change. Yeah. Thank you so much.
We are going to donate a book to a local elementary school in your honor. Thank you for
thank you so
speaking
much.
for
I
us,
appreciate
speaking to
that.
us so clearly and articulately. Thank you. That was great. Well, I know we're just maybe right at about a minute here. I'm going to rewind real quick back to announcements. There's a couple of them I skipped. First is Holly and several members, if you would stand, of the Legacy of Leadership class this year are in attendance. These folks have put together their class project. Stand up. You guys aren't shy people. I know that. Their class project is putting together meal kits at Bonton Farms, and there's a slide here. This is happening every Friday from 3 o'clock, and it'll last through the end of May. And so Holly sends out an email every week. You get it. I know you do. You can click on it. That just takes maybe 4 to 5 members there and put together, working with Stephanie, 50 meal kits. And then they're delivered to the local residents. So first of all, a thank you to this year's Legacy of Leadership class, and secondly, to all of you who have volunteered to help with that. Thank you. And the last little bit of news is dues are due. They are not Rotaract amount dues, but just add a 0 and another number. But they're due by the end of May. So I know you've received the invoice from Philip recently. If you didn't get one, let him know. I know he'll be happy to hand deliver it. And you can either pay online with a credit card or bring a check to Laurie during the meetings. So that's it. Let's go ahead and have Holly come up, and she's going to lead us in our 4-way test.
Well, since we're running out of time, let's keep going. We all know it, right? All right. The 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, truth. Second, is fair to all concerned. Third, will build goodwill and better friendships. And fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned.
Ring that bell. There you go, with conviction. Thank you.